Broadcasting Studio 24 in California, the entertainment capital of the world, featuring Dr. Dwight Rogers and Tony G. It's the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. And now, your host, Jeremy Brooks.
Welcome to the Education Talk Show with Jeremy Brooks, Weekly Recess. We are so excited to be with you tonight, and we are live in Brooks Broadcasting Studio 24. And we want to first off thank our viewers from many countries from around the world, the 1.5 million viewers who have tuned into our show, the 47 countries. We want to thank you. Also, if you are at home, we'd love to hear from you, so please make sure to drop a comment, and we might actually answer your questions over the air and share those comments out loud with the team and with the audience here at the panel. So make sure to do that. We are live again in Studio 24, and tonight's theme is ethnic studies. We're also going to be talking about equity and leadership, and also leadership in public policy. So we've got an exciting show tonight with some really interesting, fun topics. And, right here in California, this is something that's being rolled out. It is in a lot of other places throughout the country. So we're very excited to discuss ethnic studies and many other topics. But, we're going to discuss curriculum. We're going to discuss a lot of different topics, standards, academic standards, which prepare students for civic life and support student engagement. Ethnic studies, again, it's one example of one of those courses where some districts have added as part of the broader instructional planning. And so tonight we're focusing on implementation of ethnic studies and on policy and leadership. Joining us tonight is Dr. Tracy Noriega. She is a Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for the Association of California School Administrators. And we are very excited to have you on the show tonight. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here, and especially with the topic of this conversation.
Awesome. We've been looking forward to you joining us. And of course, we have, as always, the one, the only, Dr. Dwight Kofi Rogers is in the house.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Glad to see you. Glad that you are joining us. It is going to be a wonderful, wonderful conversation tonight. Buckle up. Stay tuned.
And of course, we have our in-house resident comedian, Tony G.
Thank you, Jeremy. Guys, it's great to be back. It's been a heck of a week. Got a lot of comedy shows coming up on the horizon for next month. And I'm just excited to be with you guys, and let's talk some shop.
All right. We're definitely going to do that. We're going to talk some shop. We've got a thoughtful conversation ahead, but before we dive in, as always, we have a fun tradition on the show. We like to hear from our panel, how are things going? And you've had a really busy week, but who would like to start?
We can give it to Tony.
Right. Well, I have been out doing comedy shows. I'm really proud of a mixed mic I started in Manteca. I haven't heard of a mixed mic before, so I'll go ahead and just take that title as the first one in Manteca, right? And it's at Retro Pie Pizza, and that, I believe, is on East 211, Yosemite. And if you've been around, you know what Yosemite's from, right?
Right.
That's the path to the gold, right? Well, before you go there, you got to get some laughs, the Retro Pie.
Okay.
So that's every Monday, 7 p.m. And, you show up, you go up, you sign up, you get a slot. We have had some real amazing, talented performers, and I'll talk more about it. But
I just want to jump in here too, because we ended up going.
All right.
And
Who did you see?
You got to go next week. Hey, we went, and it was sudden. It was kind of, it was like, hey, we're here at the studio. It's right up the street. We can't not go. So we ended up stopping by, and I want to tell you, for a Monday night, that is the most fun I've ever had. The pizza was good.
Okay.
And when we got there, it was funny because, you go to a restaurant Monday night, smaller restaurant, and you don't expect there to be a big crowd, but there was a crowd of people there waiting. And I think a lot of it is, credit to Tony G over here. I was pretty impressed. There was not just comics. We had a music performer too.
So I can't take all the credit. The Retro Pie owners, Lulu and her husband's mom. Again, I'm so bad with my ADD. The name's just fleeting me, but they're the ones that came together. They put it together with me. I have used, my connections I have. If I've done comedy now 15 years. So you meet people, artists, musicians, and so that's what it's about. Though it's like accepting the community, and you'd be surprised the talent levels out there. Like we had, we had this young man. His last name goes by Lima, and he is going to be singing at the national anthem in September.
Miles. Yeah.
Miles Lima. And he's going to be, and he's like, again, I'm just learning about him because he showed up to the show, or I say show, it's a mixed mic, but it's like a show in there.
Yeah.
And of course, Cookie Williams did 15 minutes. She's doing big things right now.
Just like took the roof off that place. I mean, it was so amazing.
Oh yeah. She just got done performing, for Nate Jackson. And again, just doing huge things, right? Mark Maple, who was on the show a few episodes ago, he's also about ready to do some big things in San Francisco now at Cobb's Theater. That's next month on the 27th.
Do you want to show or tell them about our musician that you had?
Well, we had our house musician, and this is a shout out to Luke Medina.
Yeah.
Because he also, I didn't know, but
I had no idea either.
He goes up there and he busts out the perfect
So
R&B.
we got to tell him who he is, though. So
Please, Jeremy, please.
Luke is behind the scenes for the show. He is our senior director of brand partnerships. And so he leads our brand partnerships team. And he was here with us for a meeting, and we said, hey, yeah, let's go down there real quick and go visit and support Tony. And he says, hey, which song should I have no idea he's going to get up and sing. Had no idea he could sing. And he says, which song should I do? And I'm like, you're going to get up there? And he says, yeah, I'm gonna go do it. So he did. And I mean, everyone loved it. He did the song. What was it?
Oh, geez. So he did
This Is How We Do It.
This Is How We Do It by Montel
Jordan.
Yes.
He
and
nailed it, guys.
he had everyone from that era, including myself, just dancing.
Yeah.
I thought I saw you kind of like doing like a cat. Were you doing a caterpillar?
I may have done a moonwalk. I don't know.
But it's fun too. That's the thing. When you do what you love and you start to attract others that want to do the same thing. So
Real quick, we got to check in with our other two people here, but you also, didn't you do some comedy this week somewhere else as well?
yeah, I did a show at the Queen Bean in Modesto. That was awesome. It's a college crowd. And again, just the weather's getting better. Comedy's happening. So that's pretty much like, and I'm going to put on my socials, I needed to start doing that because I'm starting to get booked for other events.
Pretty cool. And she actually met a fan of the show there.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
so that's
what's
cool.
up.
Yeah. So we have comments rolling in already, and one of the comments, it's from our director who's not here tonight, Mike.
Okay.
He misses us.
I
But
miss
he
you
says,
too, Mike.
He says, I love the shirt.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate that. I received it. I bought it in Ghana, actually. And it's an Ankh on here. And the Ankh is a symbol, like a cross, but it's an Egyptian. And it stands for fertility, life. And if you look at it closely, it also resembles fallopian tube, whatever. Because again, whatever, it offers that part of life through femininity. So that's what it stands for. And the red, green, and black, again, African colors standing for prosperity, for land, and for the blood that was spilled in the wars.
You know what I just realized? We don't have your book here. Normally, we had to rearrange the studio, rearrange the set. We got it behind you. But in your book, you have a beautiful symbol, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. I try to use these symbols, and it's coincidental that we're talking about symbols because ethnic studies focuses on symbols and being able to have that relationship between who the participants in the class are and then the curriculum, so you can see yourself in it. And one of the things that I wanted to do in one of the classes is take people to Ghana through virtual classes. If you take students and you shoot them to, let's say, some pyramids, or you take them to the oceans or marketplaces or just different landmarks that they have, you can have actual conversations with people there. And I know that some schools are already doing some breaking work like that. And I feel like a lot of different schools and cultures can be included. You know, you can go to different countries just around the globe just to bring in that piece of it. But yeah, so I appreciate it. But as far as me, it's been a down week. You know, I'm tired. You know, my body needs rest, and so it's been a very down week for me. So I'm just happy to have Miss Noriega here, Dr. Noriega here, because she is one of my idols, and I'm happy that she's here. She doesn't know this, but I have admired your work and admired you for a very long time, and to have you here, I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to be cool. But yes, I respect your work, and I follow you, and I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, thanks for that, Dr. Rogers.
Well, and I also wanted to mention we got a comment. Keep the comments rolling in, but we have Dr. Rob Martinez, who was
Dr. Rob!
Yeah, he was on the AXA board before. He's recently retired, former superintendent, and he said, "Welcome to the show." He's one of our regular guests, and also he just published a book. I think maybe today he re-released a second edition of Sparkle and Shine, so you got to check that out. But he says, welcome, and how are things going?
Well, hi to Dr. Martinez, and thank you again for that. I'm
Absolutely.
a little embarrassed.
Can I say I'm honored as well, more than I've ever been honored in my career.
Well, hey, I want to get in
How
on
about
this,
that?
and I've been the most. I'm the
How about
most
that, Kobe?
honored here. I'm the most honored.
Well, thanks, guys. I've had an amazing week. It's been, working for the Association of California School Administrators. We and overseeing and leading all of the professional learning programs and the DEI work. I just want to shout out my team because January was a jam-packed conference month. And the team's been working really hard on creating and implementing all of these programs for our school and district level administrators in the area, obviously, of professional learning. So just shout out to them. And yes, I'm looking forward to some rest too. My daughter, her partner, and my granddaughter are on their way back to the Bay Area, which is where we live. And I get to spend some time with my baby granddaughter.
Nice. Love it.
To celebrate my mother-in-law's 85th birthday.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
Yes, so shout out to
Shout out
my
85th
mother-in-law.
birthday. That's what I'm talking about.
Happy birthday. Yes.
Happy birthday,
So
yes.
it's good vibes all the way around.
Good,
Oh,
good.
that's
good,
awesome. And the conference, I imagine, was it happened recently.
We host a number of conferences. I believe we host about 10 conferences a year. So February we had our classified ed leaders. And then here in Region 7, San Joaquin County, actually you all have a huge classified ed leader celebration award ceremony.
The Cell
You
dinner?
all have almost 1,000 people in one space.
Right.
I got to
It's
go
always
to
sold
that.
out.
Yeah,
Sold out,
earlier
yeah.
this year. Kevin Bracey was the keynote speaker. Yes, and we have more conferences coming down the pike. So keep an eye out for that.
And we
It's
do,
one
by the
way.
way, Dr. Rogers is really good about reminding us of these things. He gives access shout outs all the time.
Have to. AXA is an
Yeah.
excellent organization.
Can we get some
and
press passes? Just
passes?
meet and greets. I want to meet and greet.
I'll make sure you can come and meet and greet.
Yeah, our next conference is actually coming up at the end of March, the Equity Institute in Anaheim.
In Anaheim.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can
yeah.
do that.
Disneyland.
And Disneyland.
Come on
Anaheim.
down.
Yes.
That's the same
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And there was actually two, I think just a leadership conference in, was it Palm Springs or something like that? I thought I saw one. Maybe. Again, there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
January, we have 3.
Yeah.
And the one in Indian Wells actually was our superintendent symposium.
That's right. That's what it
Yes,
was.
Yes. But our biggest one is Every Child Counts, and it's student services and special education topics hosted by our Student Services and Special Ed Council. That's your realm,
Yes. Yes.
right? Student
I love it.
services.
You know, and it's a wonderful thing when you have this type of organization that spreads this message, because some people don't know. And when we talk about ethnic studies, another point is we have to be able to advocate. We have to be able to inform. You know, without being able to inform people about the different programs that's available or just their availability, people just don't know. So this type of show and this Dr. Noriega on here having this gives us an opportunity to spread that message. So I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
You ready, Jeremy?
I am ready. Are you guys ready?
You're ready.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to talk tonight about some really, really important topics, and we're going to discuss ethnic studies. Before we dive in, though, we're going to look at implementation. We're going to look at policy, and we do want to start with some research, though. It's interesting. The National Educators Association, NEA, they did some pretty extensive research, it sounds like, on ethnic studies. Mm-hmm. They did a cross-examination of a bunch of different ethnic studies types of research, and they came together with some really important findings that we wanted to just kind of announce and share out here on the show, too. So I'm just going to read off this real quick. Key research findings across multiple studies. It says students who participated in ethnic studies courses were more academically engaged, so engagement was higher. Many studies actually found improvements in attendance, grade point average, so GPA was up, credits earned towards graduation rates. We're looking at how can we improve graduation rates. Offering courses like ethnic studies actually does help with that. That's what the research shows here. And in one large quasi-experimental study of ninth grade ethnic studies students, attendance increased by 21 percentage points. That's huge. That's off the charts. And then GPA again increased quite a bit. Credits earned increased as well. So there's a lot of benefits here, huge positive impacts to ethnic studies, stronger academic self-concept, increased sense of identity and engagement. And so we just kind of wanted to start there. And so I wanted to start too with you, Dr. Noriega, on this. You know, when you hear about those outcomes, attendance, GPA, credits, you know, what stands out for you most significantly? Like, what's the most significant takeaway there?
All of the above. All of the above. Right. And I think when you think about the research, yes, right? Like the research is there. There's official research, and that I think you're referring to the research that was done between Stanford University and San Francisco Unified. And actually, there's an update to that. It's coming out soon. And if you think that those statistics were great, we're going to see some more amazing data.
Wow.
But there's a question about like what does it take to get there, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at that particular study, there were so many things happening, and can you point it to the curriculum? Can you point to the pedagogy? Can you point to the structural pieces that support implementation? And like I said, it's all of the above. Right. So when you think about what authentic ethnic studies, we call it principled ethnic studies, what that looks like, you really have to pay attention to not only what is taught, but how it's taught. And these concepts, for some, are not very comfortable.
Right.
I mean, the purpose, right, we know is collective liberation. Absolutely. We undertake discussions on racism, right, different levels of oppression, why things are the way they are, and that really looks at like some historical, pieces that aren't comfortable. Right. It's a challenge to this dominant narrative. Also, one of the reasons why ethnic studies is under attack. Mm-hmm. But again, let's be real. It is more of a support to students than we actually know. I mean, if every ethnic studies teacher could do their own research and publish it, we would see phenomenal data. Mm-hmm. I think earlier we were talking about how we both went to Sac State. Yes. Hey, Stingers up. that
right.
Thing actually came
Represent.
After me.
Okay.
But that's when I first took an ethnic studies class, right? An Asian American studies class as a junior in college. Dr. Wade Maeda was my professor for Asian American studies, and a number of teachers, after that. But the impact is there. And for those of us as educators who had the opportunity to take an ethnic studies class in college, I know for me it informed the way I taught, and how I lead. And I can see the impact of ethnic studies when it happens even earlier on, right? At the high school level, if not earlier.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's huge. What she was saying, we were talking earlier, and I remember I was at Sac State, so I was an economics major, and I took these class. It was Chicano studies, and it was another ethnic. Again, it was so long ago, and I was just trying to get done with econ because that was extremely not what I thought anticipated the rigor, but I loved it because there's just such a difference. And even in I remember this. I was at the Golden One, right? And we're getting ready. And not to say my econ friends, we weren't having a good time, but you guys were just like elevated. And I thought, wow, look at just the life in them, you know? So that's a testament to you guys, what you're doing at Sac State in the ethnic department.
Nice.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to talk about too is, you know, when we look at some of our courses, and we were talking earlier about world history,
Right.
and in California at least, and again, we got viewers everywhere, but in California, students take world history in 7th grade. They take world history again in 10th grade, and then they take some U.S. history, 8th grade, and then, of course, 11th grade. And so there's a discussion about civil rights, Reconstruction, et cetera, but it really does leave out a huge slice of, you know, the people of America. I mean,
Right.
it does not cover, you know, everybody.
Right.
And so this ethnic studies course, I wanted to ask you, Dr. Rogers, because you may have some experience teaching an ethnic studies course. Does it give an opportunity for students to learn about more than just the traditional history topics, which are critical?
Absolutely, absolutely. You say world history, however, it's only a part of the world that gets shown.
Yeah.
You know, and from whose perspective. And so you have all of these students that you're sitting there looking at, and you're wondering, what are they thinking when they only see a certain group represented in every grade level that they go through. I know for me, when I was in junior college in 1999, I believe, and there was a teacher, and he taught African American history, and he came from an HBCU. The first time I ever had an African American professor, and he was amazing. You know, he wore his tie, and he, you know, spoke the part and dressed the part and looked the part, and he had the curriculum that spoke to me. And then he said, for the class, extra credit, we're going to go see Amistad. If you want to go, I said, we're going to go to the movie to see Amistad? I was excited. Now, I didn't like the movie too much, but it really focused on being able to unpack some of that information that we saw on the screen and come back. And like Dr. Noriega talked about, we had some difficult conversations, looking at the shaping and the shifting of America and asking ourselves, you know, the cause of what happened with the enslavement population. Because, you know, people say, oh, slavery is not American history, you know, per se, or whatever. You know, American history, you know, is a culmination of so many things, and slavery is an interruption of that history, right? And when you look at the enslaved people, you know, people have this terminology, you know, of saying, you know, these folks were taken and it was brought here, and sometimes glamorizing what that looked like. And there's no glamour in that. There was no glamour in that. And then you look at the way the country was built up and asking ourselves, this free labor that was offered to this country. And it wasn't just, you know, black folks that were, you know, Africans that were taken to be over here and enslaved, but there were a lot of other people who were brought over also. And I don't want to ever dismiss or shut down the oppression of other folks and other cultures, you know, and ethnic studies offers that opportunity to see it. It offers the opportunity for everyone to kind of see what happened to their people, what happened to their culture, and how it was oppressed, and then also the uplifting of that. You know, so I'm so happy that I was able to be a teacher, to be able to show my students the things that I was given as tools. So yeah, I see it as giving an opportunity to give students an opportunity to see themselves differently, you know, have some pride and have some representation like we talked about a little while ago.
I'm glad you said that, you know, you talked about uplifting students, right, and communities. A lot of times people think that ethnic studies is oppression studies.
Right.
You have to look at history, and you have to look at oppression and where that has, you know, where that sits in communities of color.
Right.
That's where, you know, if you don't look at that and you don't attack it, you don't unpack it, you don't quite understand then the struggles that folks, specifically students of color, communities of color, have been through. But when you look at the resilience and the joy, right, that's also a huge part of that. And it's a healing process.
Absolutely.
It also is a learning experience for everyone else, right? Because in history textbooks, we've painted particular communities in this deficit mindset.
Right.
So is the whole story of African Americans just about enslavement?
Absolutely.
No,
No,
right?
it didn't start
no,
there.
no. You paint Asian Americans, I happen to be Filipino American, by the way, but you paint Asian Americans as this model minority, right? It's a myth,
Right.
but where does that come from?
Absolutely.
Right? So these are the things we have to unpack
Right.
to understand why things are the way they are today.
Right.
And then, therefore, we don't make the same mistakes.
Absolutely. I love that. I love the Dr. Noriega.
And I would just add, even in addition to that, just the simplistic idea of exposure to culture. See,
Yeah.
I grew up in Manteca, okay, and it was Portuguese farmers. A lot of, obviously, I come from Chicano background. My grandfather came over from this country or from Mexico, obviously, and and then obviously, a lot of white people as well. That, like everything I experienced, okay, I'm not one to say, oh, I just experienced bad and no good. I had a blend. I had a wonderful people I grew up with. But as I'm 48 now, and I've taught mental health 15 years, I've had a huge introduction to a lot of jobs and life experience, comedy. There are such different everythings with communities and culture. These kids you're not getting them ready for the real world,
Right.
Because they're going to go to other. Oh, I got a job here. I hate it here. Why? Nobody likes me. Really? Like, you haven't even had exposed to the big world yet.
Yeah. And, one of the things too, if we are going to combat, the kinds of histories that we've seen, right, with, in Europe with like Nazi Germany and the hatred and et cetera, but it's even happened in other places too. We have to confront the past. We have to talk about it. We have to have courageous conversations. And that's why I appreciate the work that both of you are doing, because it is such an important topic. And even today, I just think that there's a huge misunderstanding about ethnic studies. I think Dr. Rob pointed that out too in the comments. So thank you, Dr. Rob, for that. But there is this huge misunderstanding about ethnic studies. And, I think people just don't really understand. They don't have a good understanding of what it's about. And can you maybe address that too? Yeah.
Sure. So in order to understand ethnic studies and why there is a misunderstanding and why, like I said, it continues to be attacked, we have to go back in time, right? To its origin stories. And many look to the student strike at San Francisco State University in 1968. And if you think about what was happening in 1968, right, the Vietnam War, civil rights movement, colleges were free, right? Colleges were free. So you look at how diverse the student population was, and students wanted to learn about themselves, right? So the Black Student Union, also huge involvement with the Black Panther Party in Oakland and San Francisco, right? So we can't forget about that. So Black Student Union led this charge. We want to learn more about ourselves. We don't see ourselves in the curriculum. We are tired of the Eurocentric history that doesn't talk about our experience. And eventually joined up to create the Third World Liberation Front strike with Asian American groups, the Chicano Latino groups formed that, and longest student strike. And out of that came the College of Ethnic Studies, right? And actually it was called Ethnic Studies because even in that point in time, nobody wanted to call it race studies. Right. We all know racism is a social construct.
Absolutely.
Right? So when we think about why ethnic studies is controversial, not only does it look at unpacking why racism exists, right? Because if it's not ethnic studies unless you are attacking racism, right? It's meant to dismantle racism. So we have to look at history. We have to understand why things are the way they are, which means that we're challenging this dominant narrative this white supremacy culture dominant narrative, right? And that doesn't mean that it's attack on white people.
Right.
It's attack on a system, right?
Right.
It's understanding why things are the way they are and why racism exists. So again, if folks don't understand that that's the purpose of it, right, then they think it's this this course that divides people, right, or this course that attacks, you know, white folks, and that's not that. And that's why I said in the beginning, it's really important to pay attention to what is taught and how it's taught, because the really skilled ethnic studies teachers that have gone through professional development, that continue to be supported, they have created these safe and brave spaces for students, regardless of what age, to understand what has happened, right? And help students unpack why things are the way they are. Help them to see themselves in what's happening, and then help them to figure out, well, who do I want to be moving forward? They don't let kids linger in this, like, oh, you know, this sadness, right? That's not the point.
Right.
The point is it's about healing. It's about love. It's about collective liberation. And I really mean collective liberation, right? It allows all of us to be able to think freely, to move freely in the world, and then to make decisions for ourselves. Communities making decisions for themselves instead of, you know, some, I don't know, person on top, this quote unquote leader that is making decisions for the country,
Right.
or whomever, right? That isn't decisions that aren't beneficial for everyone.
Now, one of the things you mentioned, I really want to touch on. You touched on, you know, life being a social construct, understanding that who's telling the story, and that it could be told differently when you go to different places, but because it depends upon the law of the land. And you touched on something else also about when did you start teaching something. We go back to middle school or in ninth grade when you start learning about history. And I was speaking with some administrators some years ago, and I said, when do students get introduced to black people when you are at a school where there's not black people? You know, you see it in 7th, 8th grade. You say, okay, you start getting some history classes, but what's the first lesson you get? Slavery. Mm-hmm. That's how you get introduced to black people. So if you think about that for a second, that for students who don't know anything or have any connection with people who don't look like them, and you tell them, well, this is, you know, who black people are, of course, that changes the narrative. And that changes how people perceive people. And it feeds into that bias, and it feeds into that racist mentality, and that systemic thought that this is how they are. Instead of saying, you know what, let's go back to the beginning of a history for African people and say, well, this is where it started. And that was an interruption. You know, the slavery period was an interruption in that time period. It wasn't where it started. And it doesn't end there, you know. So like Dr. Noriega talked about, you take people through it, mm-hmm. you know, because just because you stop there and focus on that doesn't mean that there wasn't a beginning. It doesn't mean that there's not something to move forward to.
And there's so much amazing opportunity to learn about the world too. Mm-hmm. Africa, for example, I think we were talking earlier about studying a specific African country. Mm-hmm. I got to do that when I was in college. Mm-hmm. And my country that I got to study was Mali.
Okay.
And you know, you just learn Africa is such a beautiful place, so many cultures, so many languages, such rich history. Mm-hmm. And, you know, to leave that out, to not let students learn about that is such a disservice. To not let our students learn about Asia or Central and South America, mm-hmm. or, you know, other parts of the world, I
didn't know anything about the Philippines until my brother took me there, because mm-hmm. my brother's wife is Filipina, mm-hmm. and we went to the Philippines, and I was like amazed or whatever, you know, about the hospitality they had there. My misconceptions were completely off. You know, I was like, oh my God, I felt crazy. You know, I'm like, wow, mm-hmm. I can't believe I thought that way. You know, because the people there were so nurturing, so nice, and the country itself is so beautiful. But that's the thing. Ethnic studies offers you an opportunity to have some insights to that, to dispel some of those myths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So ethnic studies, right, is I guess considered this umbrella term. But within the umbrella term, you have Asian American mm-hmm. studies, Pacific Islander studies, which includes Arab American studies, right, under this umbrella of, you know, Asian American studies. And then there's Native American, mm-hmm. Indigenous American studies, African American Black studies, mm-hmm. Chicano or Latino studies. Mm-hmm. So all of those disciplines, and I'm going to call them disciplines, and I'm encouraging all of us to call them disciplines,
Okay.
right? Even though they are based on the experiences of those communities, they are disciplines. There are scholars, right, that have researched and written about, these, the discipline itself. There's ways of knowing, there's the pedagogy, there's the content, all involved. And I want to just be able to say, like, different places you see these standalone courses, the Asian American Studies class or the Black Studies class. Sometimes you might have like one ethnic studies class. And I think we were talking about this earlier before the show, what's happening in the state of California with ethnic studies. So Assembly Bill 101, which was signed in October, I think 2021, which was vetoed a couple of times before
It
that.
was. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's finally signed again, finally by Governor Newsom, but you have to think about the historical context.
Right.
2021, what were we all witness to?
Yeah.
So many murders, right, of African American folks across the country due to police brutality, etc. There was no way, at the height of the racial justice movement, there was no way he was going to veto that again.
Right.
Right?
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Right.
Makes sense. So a number of districts started to implement their classes, started to train teachers, got committees together to create right curriculum. A number of high schools already had ethnic studies courses since the 70s.
And then real quick too, just to for our viewers out there who aren't as aware of the bill too, what it did is it provided the opportunity to implement ethnic studies at the high school level, correct?
Yes, as a graduation requirement.
As a requirement, that's right, yeah.
And the graduation requirement was only one semester.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you have something like U.S. history, right? A full year in 8th grade and then a full year as a junior, world history as a sophomore, and you have one semester of ethnic studies.
Right.
And maybe one semester to, depending on how schools structured it, but one semester to cover Asian American studies, Chicano studies, Black studies, and Native American studies. Right?
And then the way you frame it, right? You say,
Yes.
okay, like it's an add-on, not something that's intentional, So
And
it's like,
that's a
crazy.
lot of material too to cover in such a short span, right? But one of the requirements too of the bill, correct me if I'm wrong, was that it was to be implemented by 2030. Is that correct?
Yes, the graduating class of 2030.
Mm-hmm.
So people say that it's in limbo. I just want to shout out all the districts that continued, to do this and pass their board policies for their graduation requirements. But there are a number of other districts who decided that, okay, because there isn't ongoing funding, which is kind of this gray area in the bill, some people have interpreted to say that if there's not ongoing funding, then it doesn't count as a graduation requirement,
Right.
and therefore we don't have to implement it.
Right.
Right? There was a lot of funding that was appropriated in the
But
beginning.
the interesting thing is there's a lot of bills that are passed all the time that are unfunded mandates, and it's a
Unfunded
mandate,
mandates,
and it still
yes.
needs to be implemented. Just because there's no funding attached to it, and I don't quite understand why there would need to be funding attached to it anyway, because you already have the social studies teachers, right? And so,
Yeah, if that's the way you want to implement it,
Yeah.
right, in your school district, you have teachers according to the social science credential that could potentially teach ethnic studies. I want to talk. That's a whole other.
That's a whole
other
yeah,
topic.
whole other can of worms.
but the other thing too is, so in terms of social studies coursework, and it may be different in other states, but in California there is freshman year there's no course that's taken for social studies. There's opportunities to implement that in the curriculum, and so it seems like okay. So is it going to be implemented? I mean, what's the deal like?
Our budget, right? All budgets, whether school district budgets, whether the California budget, is a signal of our values. I actually wrote an article in the AXA EdCal about this. And, Governor Newsom last January 2025 did not have funding for ethnic studies. And the legislature followed suit. They passed a California budget, last summer without ethnic studies ongoing funding. Again, there was a number of funding streams when Assembly Bill 101 was first signed that supported professional development, etc.
I guess
then,
curriculum would be, right? You got to buy curriculum.
well, ethnic studies is meant to be locally created. So you want your curriculum to be hyper local. You want to know who's in your class, right? And then be able to teach about that. So here in Manteca, right, in San Joaquin County, what's the population of students? Tony, you said it's predominantly Latino, Chicano, right?
Well, I would say it's a white Chicano, and then other a mix, but that wasn't even always the case. It used to be, I would say, 70% white, 15, Latin, and then it just kind of as you go, right? But I've seen development that's Bay Area that's coming, and so it's things are changing, and that's where you talk about education. We were just talking. Who was I talking? I was talking with another leader, and we were talking about similar stuff about how we're still stuck in 19th century type models, and there's so much room to bring ethnic studies in. You just legislators got to come together and put the time in to remodel, because I feel that this is important, but the overall picture. See, this should be somehow, how can we infuse it into all curriculum? Kids need to know about ethnic studies.
Yeah.
At every level.
Well, and there's more research too, right, Dr. Rogers? There's more research that to support implementation of ethnic studies as well. And I think there were some questions too. Did you want to ask some questions of the panel as well and talk about a little bit of the research?
Dr. Noriega, research suggests identity, belonging, and cultural connection can drive engagement and achievement. From an instructional leadership standpoint, what are some non-negotiables to make sure that ethnic studies builds empowerment?
So first, everyone understanding the history and purpose of ethnic studies. And I talked about that a little bit earlier, right? And in order, and Tony, you said this too, we should have ethnic studies in everything. There are principles of ethnic studies that can span all of the subject areas. It's the content, and it's also the pedagogy. It's the way we teach, and that's why I kind of said, there's mixed, thoughts about who can teach ethnic studies. Right. But I would say, if we, support teachers with a specific way of teaching, regardless of the content area, then we're all going to be able to create conditions where students can learn, right? Learn at high levels. Leave the 19th century look of a classroom, right, where there's more discussion, where, we always talk about critical thinking. When we think about our graduate profiles or our learner profiles in districts, you'll see critical thinking. You'll see global citizen, and ethnic studies, is a way to do that. So
real quick too, should it be a different credential? Is there a different credential that might fit more than social studies?
That's another topic too, because
and the reason why I asked too is just because I think there's a lot of districts out there that they want to roll it out and they want guidance, and for those districts that are looking for ways to roll it out, is it maybe better that they have somebody from a different credential?
Yes. So yes and no.
Yeah.
Right. Shout out to Stockton Unified School District, who has a really robust ethnic studies
Aldrich
program.
Sabat, you the man.
Yes, Aldrich, Joy. You all have those specific content courses, right? Asian American Studies, Filipino Heritage Studies, I think art.
Yes.
Art.
Yes.
Right? An art class, that is ethnic studies.
Right.
So the way that it is framed now is as long as you are meeting the requirements of the ethnic studies in the bill, the ethnic studies guiding principles, if you will, then your board can pass courses that qualify for it to be ethnic studies. But the pedagogy part is huge, right? I know ethnic studies teachers who are kindergarten teachers, who are second grade teachers, right? But they teach a particular way, and their classes just feel different. They feel different. Right. And so I think when it comes to this specific credential, I think there's a very specific content piece that potentially may be reserved for high school level, right? Not that you can't speak about, racism, oppression in kindergarten, because kids might not know the precise word, but they know what it feels like.
Right.
they know when it doesn't feel fair. But if we move towards that, then I think, there's the content specific that we need to train teachers on, support teachers with. But if we all just supported teachers with teaching a specific way, then it may not necessarily have to be an ethnic studies credential.
You're talking about skill versus will also. You're talking about, yes, you supply people with the tools to do it. Yes, you can, but do they want to do it, or can they do it with fidelity?
Well, that yes, if there is a certain belief system behind it.
Yes.
By the way, I just want to say I had no idea that you could do an art ethnic studies class. That is awesome.
Yes.
I love that.
Because it speaks to a talent. It speaks to a gift. It speaks to another way of learning.
That's amazing. What were some of the other classes, though, too, in case there's districts out there that are thinking about implementing it? So there's art ethnic studies. What are some of the other ones that they could implement?
There's dance. There's the standalone courses, and people see that as like Latino studies or Black studies, Asian American studies. There's courses called comparative ethnic studies where they kind of take, where we talk specifically about Black and Asian solidarity. What does that look like? There's a number of districts who have taken the principles of ethnic studies and transformed their courses. So their English classes are considered ethnic studies classes because they've paid attention to the authors that they teach and the themes that are being taught. A number of districts who've looked at their history classes, U.S. history, econ and government, right, to bring in different conversations about capitalism and economics, right? So those are happening. Those types of courses are happening across the state.
So real quick, we like to keep the comments rolling in. Thank you for commenting. One of our people in the control room said people are loving you on the show tonight. So thank you so much. And I think honestly, like those pieces about, the types of classes, that kind of stuff, that's really what I think our viewers want to hear about too, because there's a lot of districts out there, a lot of LEAs that they need like the practical guidance too. Has the state put out much guidance on ethnic studies and how to roll it out? Have you received much guidance on it?
No, right now, because like Dr. Noriega was talking about, there seems to be like a stall, like a pause on discussions about it. And so with our district, we've had an opportunity to have leaders who still believe in the work and still become creative about getting input from students. What would you like to see in this? What would you like for it to look like? We rolled it out and invited parents in. What would you like for this to be? Because this is what we can present, and we'll tweak it along the way just so we can make sure that students are locked in. And going back to what Dr. Noriega was talking about earlier, now you have student engagement. Now you have students who want to come to school. And while I'm here, I might as well go to these other classes too and do this part. And so you see success going up because there is a particular subject that they can see themselves in and feel good about, and the day changes automatically.
I love that. And inviting all the stakeholders in. It's funny because we make a lot of decisions about students without inviting students to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
So what a powerful way to make sure that you're creating opportunities for students to be able to want to be a part of it and to have that buy-in too. That's so huge.
Right.
But that's ethnic studies, right? Again, paradigm shift, where you bring the community in, you ask students what it is that they want to know about. They have, some control over what they want to learn. An Asian American Studies class is going to look different in San Francisco and Long Beach, in Sacramento, Manteca, because you have to look at who's in the community.
Who's in the community, right? And the beauty about that is, when you involve people who are mostly affected by it, you get that buy-in. You don't get pushback. And not only that, but you have an opportunity to really, learn together, because they have their lived experiences that they can contribute to the lessons that's given. So you see real time, change take place in your classroom. And that's where the magic happens.
We have about 11 minutes. It goes so quick. It goes so quick. Every show. So if you guys don't mind, I would love to talk about this other segment too that we have. And I wanted to talk about leadership and policy because, we're all leaders, different perspectives. You can be a classroom leader. You could be a leader in the community. You could be a district leader, right? And you could also be a leader, in the state as well, with state advocacy and stuff. And so I wanted to just kind of, zoom out for a moment and talk about that, site leadership, district leadership. You have some amazing experience. If you don't mind, I can just read some of this off real quick. 24 years as a teacher and an administrator, assistant superintendent of educational services, tri-chair of district equity task force, and member of an equity council. Amazing. And then also convening an ethnic studies task force, region level leadership with AXA. And then now serving as senior director of diversity, equity, inclusion within, the California Association of California School Administrators. So, that's real leadership there. And I wanted to just kind of focus in on, kind of the leadership journey real quick too. So Dr. Noriega, when you move from site leadership to district leadership to statewide leadership, what fundamentally changes? Does it seem like there's different changes as you've stepped up and increased your sort of level of leadership, or is it kind of the same? I mean, is the scale of responsibility, is it different? The political awareness required, the pace of decision making. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. What stays the same is a commitment to students. Mm-hmm. That stays the same. I will say that it's harder. It's more of a challenge the higher up you go or farther away. And I look at the challenge in terms of access, right? Because, let's be honest, like you could be at a school site and have access to classrooms, but are you in it? And are you really in touch with student needs? You could also be at the state level in various positions and still know what students need, right? So, but it remains a challenge for the person, and so I would say that that's right. That scale of responsibility still necessitates a commitment to students and really knowing firsthand what students' needs are. You look at site leadership and you have the school site you're responsible for. You're kind of in the middle because you have district management that are kind of helping to inform what you do, and you help to translate that to your school site. Some people call it like a buffer, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. As assistant superintendent of educational services in San Lorenzo Unified, I tried not to do that. I tried to make sure that my principals weren't acting as buffers, right? I really tried to take into account what is it that's going really well at their sites and how we at the district office can learn from that. This was also like 2020 to 2023. So okay. 2020,
yeah,
I don't
that was a tough year.
Yes, yes. I didn't really
There was something going on at that
time. I didn't get to meet my team in person for a few months, right? So I will say that political awareness required at all levels. Mm-hmm. And then the political awareness is really about understanding need, understanding your role, and understanding the power map, right? And we can get into another discussion about like defining power, but understanding that power map. And I would say that another aspect of political awareness is like understanding yourself and your bottom line, making sure that it doesn't move. Right. Set it. We are not passing this, right? Like this is only how much I can do or how much you can push on me. Right. Decision making, I would say it also depends. I mean, there's urgency. 2020, we had to make some overnight decisions, all to keep kids safe, right? All to keep our kids, our communities, our staff safe, everyone. Nowadays I think it depends. It really depends on what the topic is. Where I'm at with the Association of California School Administrators, like I said, I lead all of the DI and the professional learning work. I feel a sense of urgency because a lot of our leaders need help now, especially with the equity work. Yeah. Right. They don't feel supported. They feel attacked. And not necessarily from within their context, but just because of the general, feeling of what's happening in the country right now. They really want to do this good work.
Yeah. And that's a great segue too, because I wanted to follow up with Dr. Rogers. from a district leadership perspective, like what kind of support do you think that, district leaders need most from associations, from policymakers? Is it clarity, flexibility, resources? Is it advocacy?
And Dr. Noriega talked about all of it. You look at clarity. What are the rules that we have to follow today and now, because the changes is so fluid, right? And then the resources. How can we get the resources in to assist our educators, teachers, parents, and everyone else so they can do a job with that fidelity and flexibility? Each district, each place that you go to, it's going to look different. And because it looks different, can we be flexible with that? But that's where equity is. It's like it's going to look different. You don't give everyone the same thing. You give them what they need. And that's the basis of equity. So it's a little bit of all of those components and just understanding what those needs are and then giving them those needs and listening, being a good listener and listening to what people have to say is important to them. And I think, Dr. Noriega, you said it earlier, that the budget, for example, it wasn't written in the budget. And someone taught me a long time ago that, where you put your money is what you value. So if you value ethnic studies, if you value that learning, you'll put money behind it so you can support it.
Well said. I want to get Tony G in here on this real quick before we wrap up. From a classroom lens, when decisions are made at higher levels, what helps teachers to feel supported rather than sometimes surprised by certain things? What makes leadership feel steady? Like when you're in the classroom, you're in the trenches. What would you like to see from leadership at the state level or organizations?
Well, I think really it is a few things. Transparency and commitment on what direction you're going, not for a year, but for the next 5. Okay. That is huge, because what I've seen too much, and again, I worked in a very niche type of environment, emotionally disturbed program. So there's I'm hearing things about ethnic studies, but it's so parallel to things I've, experienced in different avenues. But, when we're talking about the classroom, you need to have, again, more than a heads up, but a plan. You need a strategic plan to implement, and it has to be across the board.
Sound like a district leader already. A strategic
plan. I mean,
plan.
when you've had your arm torn off in the classroom and you've had to go into surgery, you don't want to have those things. So planning's everything.
I love that. Well, hey, listen, before we wrap up, we have our final word segment, and this is the part of the show where we give our panel an opportunity to share a final closing message with our audience. And anyone who wants to go first?
Ladies first.
Well, first, thanks so much for having me. This has been so fun. I am honored by the invitation. I'm glad to know you all. And to the folks out there, ethnic studies saved my life. I urge you to understand it, truly understand it, protect it, defend it, and then also, know yourself as a leader. Do the mirror work. It's not comfortable, but it allows for healing. It allows for you to be your best, most authentic self. And then that just creates the conditions for the best learning environment for our students in the state of California.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't want to go after
that. Cody G, what do you think?
I would just, kind of follow up is get parents, because, I'm just going to put my teacher hat on. Parents, take your kids out to get experiences out in different cultures, in different cities. You say, why do that? We're just down the street. No, it's not the point. You got to get out of your comfort zone. Because again, you're only strengthening your kids for the future. Or you go the other way and do it business as usual, but the world will change even if you won't. You can quote that.
I like that one.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Good luck.
Oh, man.
Good luck.
Follow that.
Okay. Oh,
Hey, you can put that on a shirt, by the way, Tony. Tony G, you can put that on a shirt.
It's been copywritten right now.
Okay.
Just claiming it. We'll cite you.
Well, it's hard to go after both of these wonderful people, but I'll just say that advocate, and expose your kids. And think about this for one moment. We are changing the way school systems look. And school systems no longer are those traditional systems where a teacher gets up in front of the classroom and just spews out a bunch of information. Our young people are way more advanced than we've ever known, young people to be. And interacting with different cultures, it prepares them for what the world is like. This world looks a lot different. And so giving them an opportunity to get a head start, learning about, like Dr. Noriega said, about themselves, learning about the history so they don't have to repeat it, understanding and how to unpack these conversations in critical ways where they can really communicate with people without offending anyone or without demeaning anyone, and have that cultural exchange where it's peaceful and harmonious. So I think going out and becoming involved in ethnic studies and spreading the word, and if you don't understand it, take some time to look up the information so you can learn yourself. Or if not, we have resources in AXA. We have resources on this show. Tune in each week. We'll talk about it and learn, because it's a beautiful place when we all can work together and live in this world as one.
Wow. Well, so all of you tonight. My
Dr.
goodness. Wow.
Hey.
Before we wrap up tonight, we've had amazing conversation, and thank you all for, of course, being here, for all the work that you do, of course, as well, for your leadership. I mean, we talked about implementation, we talked about belonging, we talked about identity, implementation of ethnic studies, and also, we had an amazing show tonight talking about leadership. Leadership was a fun topic, too. We got to kind of fit in right there at the end. But I wanted to just also real quick, before we fully wrap up, you have anything you want to share, a book at all?
Okay, so again, My Voice is My Power, a book coming out for young people, coming out next month. I have more information to follow, so please stay tuned in. It's coming. It's going to be hot. It's heat. It's coming to you.
And you, of course, have another book, though.
Yes, the book that I have out right now, Change the Narrative, Don't Let the Narrative Change You. It's about, like what Dr. Noriega was talking about, being able to see yourself in all that you do. And once you uncover that, the world becomes a lot easier place to navigate. So,
then, Tony, any comedy this week? Anything coming up?
Not this week, but next week.
Retro Pie?
Retro Pie for sure. That's going strong. And then again, I got a couple shows already set up for March. But I really need to get, like I said, I got a lot of ideas that are coming up on the pipeline. And I can't say yet because the dates are not locked in.
All right. Well, look forward to hearing about that. And then, Dr. Rogers, we have somebody else that's coming on the show next week. It's going to be amazing. We're going to talk about finance.
Yes.
It was somebody that you had referred.
It's going to be a surprise. So I'm going to hold off for a second. I'm going to hold off, but I'm going to make some announcements throughout the week. It's going to blow it's going to blow the roof off. So just stay tuned.
We're excited about that. And also, real quick before we wrap up, any thing that we want to mention about AXA, any conferences that our viewers that are members of AXA that they might want to attend?
Well, if you don't know about AXA, look it up. The Association of California School Administrators.
Can anyone join?
Yes.
You can be a student member.
You can be a student member, and I think you can be an associate member if you're a teacher.
Okay.
And obviously school and district level administrators. I mentioned our equity conference. That's the end of March in Anaheim. A lot of conversations about leadership, a lot of conversations about what equity work is looking like in schools and school districts. So we'd love to see folks there.
Well, thank you again for everything. You were wonderful, magnificent. Again, you know what? My heroes are now becoming the people that I work with, my colleagues. I am so happy this year.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you to our control room in the back. Also, real quick, I want to give a shout out. I was on a show called the Classroom Narratives Podcast. Part 2 came out, I think, yesterday, and I need to do a better job sharing that and promoting it, so I'm trying to promote it right now. But definitely check that out. It's a great show, great episode. We talk about all kinds of things regarding education and leadership, and also looking at restorative practices and things like that. So make sure to check that episode out. And thank you so much for being here tonight and being a part of the show. Thanks for spending part of your evening with us in our schools, our districts, and our communities. Please take care of yourself. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Take care.
Good night.